Want to bring in our good friend, Dr. Joe Congeni, Sports Medicine Center, Akron Children's Hospital, joining us this morning here on 1590 WAKR News Talk Sports. Already week 7 of the high school football season is happening Friday. Joe, you spend a lot of time on football sidelines, my friend, and you want to start talking off a little bit about injuries and football.
Yeah, I do, Ray. There was a study that came out in July of 2017. That's a pretty updated study in the Journal of the American Medical Association Neurology version of JAMA. And a lot of people are talking about it in sports medicine circles. And you know the debate. We talk about it on your show, and we hear it talked about all over town. On one side, you know, the discussion of, hey, they should possibly think of stopping football, and it's not safe, and might not let my child, play football anymore, and that issue, versus a lot of the people who have played the game that argue that football's generally safe overall. It's a sport that has so many benefits of exercise and teamwork and everything. So there's two sides of that debate, and a lot of people say, well, gosh, look at the CTE study, and then others say, hey, you took the most symptomatic couple hundred people. There's 1.1 million people that play football every year, and for a lot of those people, they do very, very well later in life. And this study actually is on that side of the ledger in the debate. This is a study, it's pretty complex, but I know with Ray and Tony, you guys, figure this out, and you have the smartest listening audience around. So let me try to explain this study a little bit that just came out. It's called the Wisconsin Longitudinal Study. And in 1957, in the state of Wisconsin, they took 10,000 high school males, guys, and they looked at them over time, kind of like the Framingham study, looked at heart disease and other things every couple years, and to see what happens to these people. And recently they've looked at the issue of football. And what they did of these 10,000 people from 1957, high school guys, they were able to get 4,000 more to come back a few years ago. 4,000, wow, that's pretty good around Wisconsin. They came back and were studied again. This is 60 years later from when they were in high school. And they looked at, in this population, they looked at those that played football, those that played non-collision sports, and those that played no sports at all, 3 groups. And 60 years later, and they looked at the rate of dementia or cognitive decline in this population. They looked at the rate of depression, significant depression, and they looked at the rate of significant alcoholism. People that were addicted to alcohol. 31% were in the category of played high school football of the 4,000 that came back from 10,000 that started in 57. And what they found, Ray, is there was absolutely no difference in those 3 categories among the 3 groups. Those that played football, played non-collision sports, or played no sport at all. In the areas of dementia, depression, and alcoholism, no difference in the 3 groups. Playing football did not have any adverse effects overall when they looked at all the numbers versus other people in the population from 1957 at Wisconsin.
Of course, that's going back in time, right?
It is. So a couple limitations. Yeah. You're all over it, man. You are so good. So, of course, do you think football's changed a little since 1957?
Just a
yes,
touch,
it has.
Yeah.
No question. You and I talk all the time, bigger, stronger, faster. But it does bear out what some of the guys who played the sport say, is that if you really fairly look at the numbers, it's a very small number that have these significant findings like CTE. So there is a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of people that play. And this is one study that at least bears out. Again, these people played only, from what we know, we were only checking the ones that played in high school. We don't know if any played in college or pros, and that adds another variable to it. But it is kind of an interesting study for thought, isn't it, Ray?
It most certainly is, the way things have changed and the way things lay out, too, medically. But from a medical standpoint, how do you look at it, Joe?
Well, I have to admit that I want as much data as I can get, so this study does help me. I've heard a career of ex-players say that they think there were benefits of things that they learned from living a healthy lifestyle the rest of their lives, and that they're the same as others in the population, and that we're looking at a really small number to make decisions. We really need to kind of see if we studied the brain of all comers, those that were in the military, those that were our first responders, studies like that to really see in the CTE study and others, we need more information. But right now, I think it is a relatively safe sport, and I definitely don't think there's enough evidence to say at this time in 2017 we need to do away with the sport of football. Or as you know, I say all the time, concussions are going up in other collision sports. I don't think there's enough evidence to do away with collision sports.
All right, Joe. Great stuff. Good insight and good study this morning. Thanks again, my friend. We'll catch up with you next week.
Thanks, Ray. Have a great week.
You too, Dr. Joe Congeni, Sports Medicine Center at Akron Children's Hospital.